Today I'm going to tell you about my relationships with money. They are not very easy. I consider myself a very reasonable spender, but sometimes something happens to me and I begin wasting money and on some courses which would improve my brain, my body, my memory, and so on, my life, my money. And that's why I spend a lot of money on that courses, and some of them costs a fortune, maybe cost a fortune. And so I never even took that courses. I have no wish or time and wish at this altogether. So I lose that money, and I'm very unhappy about that. But on the other hand, I don't spend money, for example, on taxi if I am not able to drive. My car doesn't start, the engine doesn't start, or something else. I can get on the bus, and so not to pay much money on a taxi and to save money. And I try to save money for a rainy day. So I have a bank account, I put money there in order to, so I always have some money to live on or to spend on vacation, for example, or when I don't work. I can use that money, I can withdraw them. My mom taught me to put savings into a bank and keep money safe, because she was from a very poor family, and they go belly up because their father died when she was 4, and mother, my grandma, had to survive with 3 little children, and they live on a shoestring, and they were strapped to cash. And so when my mom was a grown up and graduated from the university, she earned money. She tried her best to earn money, and she always had money, and she deposited it into a bank account. So we always have, but we always have, but in the Soviet Union, people have money. People had money, but they don't know what to buy. But there were no products and clothes, furniture, and so on to buy. So there was amounts of money on their accounts, but they don't know how to spend, and they so when there was a crisis in the early 1990s, my family were running out of money, because all the money that were put in the bank account, they just how to say it, they couldn't buy something on them. Then if for example my mom could buy a house on the money she had on her account. After the crisis in 1991, she couldn't afford even a loaf of bread, or she could only buy a loaf of bread on that money, and that was very was it something like a tragedy. And so she and my dad has to they have to start from scratch, and they were very successful, and they saved, and they worked hard, they make money, and they had savings, and they are retired now, but their pension is very high, because the salary was very high when they worked. So you may now banks are we are more confident about banks nowadays, because if you have you put money in your bank account, you may withdraw, you may take it out, get them back if a bank goes bankrupt, but no more than 500 or 800,000 rubles. So you try put your money to different banks. Try to put them in different banks to save them, to keep your money safe. So what do I want to change concerning money? I want to change because maybe I don't need and I didn't need, and I don't need didn't need money, because my family was not poor. We never live on a tight live on a tight budget. We were not poor as a church mice, and so I even now my mom can give money to me. She has more money on her accounts than I have, and that's why maybe I don't need money. So it is difficult for me to earn much money, but I'd like to be independent, and to spend them on the traveling, on my house, on my children, on their education first. So maybe when I will be ready to make investments, and be ready to invest money and do what when I will ready to or I will know how to handle a big amount of money, that big amount of money comes to me.